We want to welcome everyone here at the chapel, as well as all of you that are viewing from afar online. Just a gentle reminder for those of you present here at the chapel today, if you have a cell phone with you, please place it in the silent mode or turn it off completely. That would be appreciated. The service for Mr. Cory Weisman will be conducted by a family friend, David Jacobson.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, there's a beautiful ceremony of cutting kriya, of tearing of the ribbon. We're a Semitic people, and when someone died in the desert, we tore our clothes, and it was an outward sign of mourning. Really, it turned into a gift to the world that we don't physically harm ourselves when someone dies. In Fiji, when the king died, so did the sons and wives, so the wives died and sons gave fingers. In the Aboriginal community in Australia, people take a rock and rend their skin. When we became Jews in the Bible, there are stories when Jacob heard that Joseph died, he tore his clothes. There are 613 commandments in our Bible, and most people associate with the Big Ten. The first 5 relate to man and God, and the second 5 man to man. The tragedy in this situation is that when a child is mourning a parent, we cut the kriya over the heart. On the first side, Kibud Av V'Em is the 5th commandment. It talks about the relationship between man and God. But here we're watching a mother say goodbye to her son and a sister to her sibling. So I asked the two of you to rise, and we're going to say a blessing. And the blessing just says that God is the true judge. And even if you don't believe in that at this time, we have to accept what's in front of us. We begin first by acknowledging his mother Bobbie, his sister Jamie, and her husband Jeff, the nieces Jillian and Jennifer. We also begin with the 23rd Psalm, which is in your service folder, and we'll read together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevorach. God is given and God is taken away. Praise be the name of God. From the High Holiday Liturgy, birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing. From foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom. From weakness to strength, or strength to weakness and often back again. From health to sickness and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith. From defeat to defeat to defeat until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death, to life everlasting. I believe it was the Byrds who made the Ecclesiastes song so popular, but I think it really encompasses life. So I read from Ecclesiastes, for everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to keep, a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent, and now is the time to speak. The following people have been asked to speak about Cory. We're going to have Alan Haft, a friend, and it'll be via video. Then Jaime Weinstein, his sister. Cory Cook, a friend. Sam Lippman Stern, a friend. And Jaime on behalf of her mother, Bobbie. So this time we're going to hear from Alan.
For the many gathered here today that don't know me, my name is Alan Haft, and I had the honor and privilege of knowing Cory for over 30 years. Okay. While he worked as an agent at ICM during the 90s, he was representing James Woods, who at the time I had worked for quite a few years. Oftentimes, we may not well recall when we first met someone, but when an individual is so close to our hearts, it's the feeling we can easily recollect. So I well appreciate this opportunity to share with family and friends today just how special of a person Cory was, not only to me, but to the world. I witnessed firsthand for many years all around him. In my mid-20s, struggling to get anyone's attention in Hollywood, I remember instantly feeling welcomed by Cory into his pedigree world, where at the time, he was busy representing Hollywood's top, most recognizable talents in voiceover work. In fact, of the many imprints Cory leaves behind in this world, what many aren't aware of is that he truly is one of the founding fathers of voiceover work in the world of modern animation. Nowadays, everyone takes for granted just how valuable that world is, but back in the early part of the 90s, for the most part, animation was left to a scattered few studios and a small handful of independents. With Cory's vision and, of course, his seemingly infinite contact base, he truly did help pioneer the animated world before anyone ever heard of, for example, a tiny little company at the time no one ever really knew anything about, that little company called Pixar. Trying to find any possible way into Hollywood, Cory is one of the very few who welcomed me into his world the instant I first met him. For me, it was he was love at first sight. The guy in the corner office, a few years my senior, welcomed me into his highly esteemed world. From the moment I first met him, I instantly felt what many felt in his presence, his very unique and gifted way of making everyone feel so special. For 3 decades since, what I well learned over many years is that Cory's greatest gift that he leaves behind wasn't his pioneering work in voiceover animation, but rather making everyone feel just that way, special regardless of who they were, whether they were A-list talent or, in my case, no-list talent. I can say with an absolute certainty his most magical gift was making everyone feel they were at the top of the list. Time and time again, I saw him in action, from busboys to valet parking attendants, from some of the most notable people in entertainment and technology to Cory. Everyone, no matter who they were, how much money they had or didn't have, everyone to him was all the same. Human beings, all of which deserve respect, attention, and of course, a heavy dose of love that he gave endlessly to all those around him. There are few of us in life that don't suffer peaks and valleys, and just like all of us, Cory had his share of the same. Proudly, during the few years in which he briefly left Hollywood, I kept in touch with him, visiting him at his bottom somewhere on the outskirts of Fort Lauderdale. Even during those difficult years, he may still maintain that warm glow, that love for life, and an eternal flame called hope that he would soon turn things around for himself. Then one random day, I got a call to tell me he was picking himself up and returning to Los Angeles, where I welcomed him back with open arms. Since his return, I witnessed him forging a way back through the fire, and not surprisingly, he not only found his way back, but he prospered in ways that so many before him, as I have witnessed, were just not able to do. So it was behind that teddy bear smile, that deep belly laugh, and that magical aura around him that I realized this amazing, caring, supremely loving human being also had a fight in him that could put even Mike Tyson in his prime to shame. A true warrior, stronger than most I have come across, able to fight his way back through all the doubts to prosper once again in Los Angeles, the place, with no offense to his hometown Chicago, was the place where he truly belonged. It's through Cory that almost a decade ago I met my business partner, and as things are taking off for us, any of the success I will experience of this venture could not have happened without Cory doing what he always did best: match people up. To my lost brother, who left himself and all others far too early, I will miss your calls a half hour before the Rams games on Sundays, asking if I'd quickly come up and join you. I'll miss the calls 5 minutes before one of your important meetings, asking if in 3 minutes or so I can put together a PowerPoint presentation for people such as, in one particular case, I believe is the President of the Dominican Republic, who just entered the building and you were scrambling to get a presentation done. I'll miss meeting you down at Portillo's, watching you show me there's nothing wrong, and letting yourself go every now and then to enjoy life, where in this case, downing a few Chicago-style hot dogs proved the way. I'll miss our brotherly dates, such as the legendary one where you won yourself a pink stuffed animal in basketball at the Long Beach Pier, where I had to endure watching you parade around your trophy high up on your shoulders for everyone to see. I'll miss those extremely random emoji texts, such as a paperclip, a banana, or one of those green chubby frogs. Things to the casual observer made no sense at all, but meant the world to me, given the deep message behind all the silliness, that someone on this planet was out there thinking of me. I'll miss the random daily phone calls where for a few minutes or so we shared the Seinfeld type of seemingly unimportant slices of life, but where a jolt of your laughter created a short vacation from the challenges of a life along the way. I'll miss the laughter, the brotherly love, and the warrior who always knew if help was ever needed was always just a phone call away. In closing, I found it quite ironic that this past Friday evening, where, of course, I was sitting in a movie theater watching none other than an animated film, Moana 2, that the light on my phone started to go off more than a few times. Turning the phone around to see who was not giving up trying to reach out to me, I saw it was none other than my good friend James Woods. Stepping out into the lobby to answer his third or fourth call, he gave me his truly heartfelt, tear-filled news that our very close friend for decades had departed us. We spent quite some time in the lobby reminiscing about all the fun days we shared together. Then a day or so later, I conclude my time with you here today with a somewhat extended version of what I posted on Cory's Facebook page. Having heard this devastating news just a few hours ago, I'm at a complete loss of words at this moment. In knowing you'll somehow see these words, remember you are forever loved and will be truly missed. Rest in peace, my brother. I'll look for you all around me. I'll listen out for your heartwarming laughter through the joy of happy children. I'll watch for your warmth through the sunshine in the morning. I'll find your deeply caring embrace through the tight hug of another. And I will most certainly look forward to seeing you again sometime further down my road, where I am certain we will once again meet again on the other side. To Jamie and Cory's mom, I am so sorry I could not get out there to Chicago to join you today. As the apple never falls far from the tree, I could have used a heavy dose of Cory's love through meeting you on this very sad day. To my brother Cory, I can assure you, gone, but you will never, ever be forgotten. Thank you for the time.
Sorry, bear with me. How do I begin to tell you about my brother for this circumstance? Okay. This is something I absolutely should not be doing at this point in time. Cory had so much more to do and see and say and feel. I know he had already done so much more than most people do who live 20 or 30 years longer than he did. It still isn't enough. Not for someone like him. Sorry. Not only because he loved and lived life so fully, it's also because his absence will leave an emptiness in all those lives he touched, which will never be able to be filled. Anyone who would even try to compensate for his absence would be a fool. It would be like trying to fit a round peg in an irregular quadrilateral hole. And I know how the saying is supposed to go, but I think we all know that comparing him to a square peg in a round hole just doesn't cut it. He was much more distinctive than that. He was definitely one of a kind, and if you were fortunate enough to be cared for by him, you had the privilege of feeling like the sun was shining on you and for you. It's not to say that sometimes his energy and passion wasn't exhausting. He just had so much to share with the world, with people he knew and loved, people he would just meet, and it sometimes felt to me like it was all too much. But that was also what made him special. He wanted to do so many things, as I mentioned earlier, and that including doing for others. One word that has come up over and over again as people have reached out to my mom and I is generous. I know this to be true. He wanted to give things or gifts whenever he could, or create experiences that you would remember forever, or make time to just be together. What he did for others that I don't think he realized was the best thing was that he gave sincere connection. Sorry. He wanted to help others in any capacity he could. Sure, this included business type of help in many instances, like creating connections for other people. But it also meant having deep conversations because he was simply curious. Ultimately, he helped create a connection with himself, and that was his secret sauce. He was real. He loved people, and his willingness or eagerness really to help created meaningful and strong connections to so many people around the world. Now, I obviously have the sole connection with him as his only and favorite sibling. My whole life, I have been Cory's little sister. There was even a period of time, I'm sure most people knew me as Cory's little sister more than they knew me as Jamie. And while that sounds like something that ended by the time I was in my 20s, think again. He never stopped introducing me as his little sister. And I can't believe I'm never going to hear that introduction again. I can't believe I'm never going to have a first-time experience with him again. I had quite a few of those because of him. He rented the first limo I was ever in for my Sweet 16. He took me to my first concert and my second. And the first of many times of VIP and backstage access at said concerts. He took me to my first Blackhawks game. He gave me my first glass of red wine. I totally embarrassed myself, but I was of age. He got me my first job of 2 as an extra. He got me my first job and only in voiceover. He wanted to involve me and show me how much fun life can be. I will forever be grateful for that. I try to find or make the fun in the day-to-day living. Not quite the same as him, but still looking for the joy and laughter everyone needs to get through the messiness and challenging times in life. I will never be as fearless as Cory. He had an extraordinary sense of adventure. So much so it made me nervous often. But Cory can make just about anyone say yes to him. I once witnessed a security guard tell him it was because he had an honest face that he was letting us in to Rosemont Horizon, Allstate Arena for those of you too young to know. And they let us in not only to Rosemont Horizon, backstage with no tickets, no passes to that concert. Cory told him something that, this person and that person, and it was a mistake, and the tickets weren't, we'll call, and come on, I've got my little sister, blah, 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 and bam, we are walking backstage and escorted to seats right in front of the stage. That's the brother and human being I will remember. The person who will do everything he possibly can to make it, whatever your it is, happen for you. The person who took me on some of my greatest and wildest adventures. The brother who watched out for me and tried to protect me. The person who helped create some amazingly funny and vivid memories. He is a big reason I have stories to tell it all. I know I'm not the only one here today who has those stories. The ones that start with, I'll never forget this time when Cory and I, and you could fill in the blank. So as we all reflect on those stories and gather here to celebrate Cory's life, I ask you all not only to continue to share all of your stories about him with me and my mom, Jeff, and the kids, but in honor of Cory, to continue to make more memories and write more stories of adventure. It would really make me happy to know that this will be a way his spirit lives on. Live fully, laugh as much and as often as you can, and invite love and meaningful connections into your life. I will do my best to make you proud, Cory. I've always been proud of you. I love you. Thank you. Oh, God.
I thought this was going to be so much easier at the beginning of this, but anyway. My name is Cory Cook. Yes, another Cory. And as the great Mr. Weisman would always say, C1 and C2. We were the C2 solution. Cory and I met several years ago as business colleagues. I worked in the defense aerospace industry, and he in Hollywood. What could the two of us possibly have in common? Well, as it turns out, everything. And over the years, we became business partners, became the closest of friends, my best friend, and with brothers, with a bond thicker than blood. I know Cory is looking at me right this minute saying, "Dude, what are you wearing?" And of course, he would have me outfitted in Air Jordans, sweatpants, a Los Angeles Rams jersey, and a Dodgers ball cap. Sorry, buddy, maybe next time. I will root for your Rams. The first time I met Cory was for a business meeting at one of our premier facilities. And he showed up in red Adidas sweatsuit. And I asked myself, who is this guy? In our next meeting, this time with several senior vice presidents, a one-star general, a few colonels thrown in, I think, for good measure, he came in dressed far more conservatively. This time it was in a black Adidas sweatsuit. And I blurted out to him, I remember it vividly, "You're killing me, Smalls." That sealed the bond with us forever. And from then, we have been the best of friends, starting on an epic journey. That is just who he was, and I learned to just realize and appreciate that of him. And the funny thing is, I'll tell you this, is that by the end of that meeting, those colonels and that general and all of those senior vice presidents were eating out of the man's hands. He was just being himself. There was just something magical about Cory. Saying he was larger than life, it doesn't even begin to come close to describing him. But let me try. First, the stories. The man told the biggest whoppers you have ever heard. And when you first meet him, you say he is absolutely full of, I'll let you fill in the blank. And then you see his pictures, his countless pictures of him with musicians, movie stars, even a U.S. president or two, and you think twice. And then you meet some of these people from his stories, and not only do they confirm it, they say he only touched the tip of the iceberg. And then it hits you, the stories were all true. Second, the pictures. The man was a photo nut. Everywhere we went, it was C1, take a picture. And it would be him with people, buildings, signs, airplanes, donuts, a rock, anything for that matter. It used to drive me crazy. And now I realize how blessed we all are because we have a million pictures that we will be able to remember him through. Third, the memories. He absolutely loved life, and when you were with him, you ended up on the most insane adventures. There were countless road trips where he would recite every rap song there was by heart at full volume. What was worse, he started to get me to sing them with him too. The time when he and I were in Australia, we were literally chased by a kangaroo. You just cannot make this stuff up. Apparently, they forgot to tell us don't look a kangaroo in the eye. They get a little testy. So, I will tell you this, and he shared it with me afterwards. He said, I can run pretty fast for an old fat white guy. He could, because he kind of left me behind. But one that I will never forget is when he drugged me out to opening day of SoFi Stadium to watch his LA Rams play against my Tampa Bay Buccaneers, quarterbacked by Tom Brady. Our seats were so high that I think we were both getting altitude sickness. You get the picture. And then came those words, come with me. And he was off like a shot. We meandered, we ducked, we turned. By the time we were done, we were somehow 10 rows up on the 50-yard line. Starting to see a theme here? And yes, he'd be upset if I didn't mention that the LA Rams beat my Bucks, and they even won the Super Bowl that year. You all know Cory intimately. Obviously, his legacy in Hollywood is well known, but I want to share a side of him that you may not be aware of. As I mentioned earlier, Cory and I worked together, blending Hollywood, defense, and aerospace. We were both dreamers, and we envisioned our two worlds working together for the betterment of everyone. He once told me, anyone can work hard and be rich, but when you achieve goodness, you are truly successful. So in that capacity, some of the programs that we were working on was a holocapsule with a brand new type of visualization that would bring Holocaust survivors to people in an unknown way. We were working with the school systems and had already inserted holocapsules into some universities that are there today, with the dream of being able to put them in every school throughout the world and be able to bring the best and the brightest of teachers and mentors and entertainers to the children, to let them learn in a way that was just never even before possible, to give everyone a fair chance to be their best. It was incredibly important to him and to myself. And just one of the other many projects, we had a technology on the defense side that allowed us to see through rock. You could literally see people walking through rock or tunnels. And we started working with the Israeli government to help try and free the hostages. This was the man that I knew. The world is a far lesser place in your absence, brother, but it's such a far better place because you were in it. Cory is a star in the celestial heavens. Unlike any star, its life may have been extinguished, but we will continue to see that light shining in us throughout our lifetime. So, to my partner, my mentor, my best friend, and from my brother, from another mother, I say farewell. Thank you.
Can you guys hear me? Thank you, Bobbie, Jamie, family, friends, and my mom for having me here to share this moment to honor my brother, Cory. Most of you probably know this, but Cory lived one of the most interesting lives of anyone I've ever met. His stories were so wild, like Cory mentioned, that when I first met him, I thought he had made them all up. But as I got to know Cory, I was blown away as he would introduce me to major celebrity friends, walk me into meetings with the heads of some of the biggest companies in the world, all of them greeting Cory with hugs, smiles, and high fives. "Hey, Cory," they'd yell in excitement. It turned out all of his stories were real. I was amazed. One of the stories that stands out from Cory's incredible life was Jonathan Davis's Gothic-themed wedding. Jonathan Davis is the lead singer of the rock band Korn, which at the time and still is one of the biggest rock bands in the world. Jamie, Bobbie, you guys were there, I believe. So Cory gets invited to this rock star's wedding, and because Cory loved to show his friends and family a good time, invited his parents and sister Jamie to come along for the ride. He told the family that the wedding would take place at a giant castle in Los Angeles and that it was Gothic themed. Cory first took Jamie to buy clothes at a Halloween store in Los Angeles, which was almost sold out by the time they arrived. When the Weisman family got to the wedding at the castle, it was a sight to be seen. Apparently, there was a giant, scary, actual wolf running around the venue, which Jamie proceeded to pet because she loves animals. And Cory got mad at her, the protective older brother that he was, thinking that this giant wolf would bite her. Thankfully, no one was attacked by the wolf that night. Cory's good friend Peter Katzis, who managed the band Korn at the time, walked down the aisle wearing a top hat and a giant trained hawk on his arm. A-list actors and rock stars dressed in Gothic attire, as well as wild animals, filled the grounds of the massive castle. The thought of Cory and his family dressed in black with possibly dangerous animals running around at one of the biggest rock stars' weddings in the world. That might sound wild to us, but that was a normal day for Cory Weisman. Bobbie, please show us pictures at the Shiva. Another favorite Cory story that comes to mind was when President Bill Clinton called Cory directly to asking him to do a big favor. He had just won the presidency the week before. Hey, bear with me on this impression, but hey, Cory, it's President Bill Clinton. Cory was surprised to receive the call. Yes, Mr. President, just call me Bill. Cory, listen, I just got to Washington, D.C. I'm calling you from the White House. You see, my little brother, Roger, he's a great guy, but he's also a total screw-up. I can't have him anywhere near Washington during my presidency. Look, he wants to be an actor. I'm sending him to Los Angeles, and I just need you to watch him for me and put him in some of your movies. Can you do that for me, Cory? Well, what would you guys say if the president asked you to do a big favor? Cory responded, of course, Mr. President, I mean Bill. Roger was sent on a private jet to Hollywood with Secret Service following his every move, and Cory came through on his promise and put him in big movies and TV shows. I remember Cory telling me that he begged directors to put Roger Clinton in their films. Roger ended up playing roles in major Hollywood blockbusters, roles such as Security Guard Number 3, Zombie Number 5, Truck Driver, and he even played himself on the show The Nanny. And the list goes on. Just take a look at his resume online, his actor's resume. All of that was Cory's doing. President Clinton was so pleased by Cory's success on this secret mission to get his little brother into movies while keeping him far away from Washington, D.C., that he rewarded Cory greatly. For Cory's hard work and a job well done, President Clinton gave the opportunity to produce the first ever live television special at the White House, which had never been done before in American history. The First Family's Holiday Gift to America, live from the White House, aired on Fox in 2000 and was watched all around the country. Bobbie told me Cory even called her from the White House. That was Cory, always making sure to call his mother or involve his family in his incredible adventures and experiences. During his long career in entertainment, Cory worked with Steven Spielberg, Francis Ford Coppola, James Woods, Robert Downey Jr., Jeff Goldblum, Rodney Dangerfield, Mel Gibson, Kenny G., Anne Bancroft, Joe Pantoliano, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and many, many more. He negotiated $100 million deals for The King of the Hill, helped discover the artist Pink, and was instrumental in every animated movie and TV show that I grew up on, from The Lion King to Toy Story to Animaniacs to Futurama, and the list goes on. So when Cory took me under his wing, a talented but self-deprecating Jewish filmmaker from New Jersey who was new to California and didn't know a thing about Hollywood, I jumped at the opportunity. Being the incredible manager that he was, Cory helped build my career from making short internet documentaries to achieving my dreams in entertainment. Just 2 years after meeting Cory, together we sold a documentary series to HBO, Telemarketers, which became the most viewed documentary on the network in 2023. Was nominated for a 2024 Emmy and won the Critics' Choice Award. That could have never happened without Cory. I remember Cory tearing up with pride when we walked down the red carpet this last September at the Emmys, and his big smile when we learned that Barack Obama, Larry David, Beyonce, and Oprah were all big fans of our TV show. Just like he had done for many clients over the years, he had helped a humble young filmmaker who he recognized was talented but needed guidance to become an Emmy-nominated director. Cory, I am eternally grateful. And we had fun doing it. And we had fun doing it all. It wasn't just work for Cory. Cory liked to have fun, and he loved his work. Cory was the rare type of person that you are lucky to encounter in your life. I don't think there's a single person like Cory on this planet. He was a genius manager and extremely well-connected Hollywood executive, but he was also incredibly generous. The kind of person that would literally give you the shirt off his back if you needed it, or the last dollar in his pocket. He was deeply loyal. If you were his friend or family, he had your back no matter what. I called him my Jewish pit bull, because as my manager, he would fight hard to make sure I got the best deal possible. Remember, Sammy, it's not show friendship, it's show business. He said to me many, many times, many more than I can count. Cory's incredible character was a testament of the wonderful family that he comes from, who have now become my family. I am so grateful to have met Cory in my life and to be able to call him not just my manager or friend, but my brother. He will be dearly, dearly missed. He'll be dearly, dearly missed, but his memory and his impact will live on through the television shows, movies, through his friends, his family, and through myself. And through his work will be passed down to future generations. I know he's smiling down on all of us right now. Dr. Cory Weisman, the GOAT, I would call him, which means the greatest of all time. I love you, brother. Zikrono Livraka, may his memory be a blessing.
Okay, I'm reading some words that my mother wanted to be shared. Can you hear me? Okay. These are my mother's words. I want to thank you all for being here today. We gathered to celebrate the life of my beautiful son, Cory, a person who touched so many people in different ways. Today is a day of sadness. It is also a time to reflect on the richness of Cory's life and the countless memories we hold dear. A memory that stands out the most about him is his sense of humor, generosity, and devoted love he had for me. He had a way of making everyone feel valued, whether you were a lifelong friend or someone he had first met. I'll always remember when he was 7 years old and it was my birthday. Again, this is from my mother's words. Okay, he took it upon himself to go to the little store on the corner where we lived in Florida with money he saved up to buy me something he thought I would like. He gave me this wrapped present, and when I opened it up, it was a box of Dreft laundry detergent. He knew that's what I used and was sure I would like it. He was an entrepreneur even at that young age. He went to neighbors' houses and asked if he could pick some oranges off their trees. He also had a newspaper route, and he would fill up the plastic newspaper bags with a half a dozen oranges and sell them outside the food fair grocery store. I was amazed they didn't kick him off the property. In his adult life, he was a mentor and a leader. He taught arena management at Columbia College in Chicago. He engaged in so many ventures, and it was written up in magazines, books, and trade papers as the voiceover king. He went on to work his own business in the technology field and was very successful at it. This June, he took me to Las Vegas to see the Grateful Dead at the world-famous Sphere, and we had the time of our life. Flying me first class, putting me in my own suite at the New Fontainebleau Hotel, and did everything possible to have wonderful memories. My Cory was a unique, one-of-a-kind person. Whether he was a mentor or a leader, a source of strength, his legacy lives on, and I will forever be broken with a hole in my heart that will never heal. All the people who loved and admired him are better for having known him. I'm sure that most of you have a story, a moment that shows how much Cory meant to us, and it's incomprehensible for me to say goodbye. I can only take comfort in knowing the love and joy he shared with me will always remain in my heart. I hope you all continue to be kind and show up for each other and live with the same warmth that he did. In closing, I want to share a quote that I think sums up his spirit perfectly. What we have once enjoyed, we can never lose. All that we love deeply becomes a part of us. Cory's love, lessons, and his legacy will live in my heart forever. Thank you, my special son, for everything you've given me and others. And I want to thank everyone for being here to celebrate his remarkable life. Thank you. Yeah.
First of all, I want to say thank you for all those beautiful words and memories. I think it's important to also recognize his father, the late Jack, and hopefully the two of them are now reunited. Just a few thoughts before we conclude the service. One is we're in the Hebrew month of Kislev. So in the Jewish world, though sounds strange, our first month is really the 7th month. Then we go, which is Tishrei, which is all the holidays. Then we have Cheshvan. And the colloquialism for Cheshvan is Mar Cheshvan. There are no holidays. And then we have Kislev, which has the holiday of Hanukkah. What we learned today was here's a man who lit up the world. In a dark world that we're living in, he found a way to create light for everyone. So the first thought I have is as you celebrate Hanukkah, not about the gifts, but about the light. And that each day, just like he adopted people along the way, that's why we light the candles 1 to 8 versus 8 down to 1, because we're always trying to find more light. And here's a gentleman who found more light. In Hebrew, there's a great expression, mitzvah goreret mitzvah, good deed begets a good deed. What we learn from that is nice people have nice people around them. And I say to your family, good for you. The spark went out way too short. And I have to say, to watch a mother say goodbye to a son, I've experienced that in my life. My heart breaks for you. And Jamie, the little sister, who's now really, that's it. You're the child. In a moment of great sadness, we do have to look at the generosity of this gentleman. And we could say all the accolades in the world about the fame in Hollywood. But it was also talked about a dark time. And I think we've all experienced that. In Hebrew, the word life is chaim, chet yud yud mem sofit. With the 2 middle letters is God's name. Life in English is L-I-F-E, with if is the 2 middle letters. This man did not live an if life. He lived a sacred life. Because we can say the accolades are here, but really, he was a person of community. He was a person of the peoplehood. And that was just an expression. Putting all you together and helping people, that was just his expression of being him. If he were a chocolatier, he'd be an artist and probably giving chocolate away to everyone. And I think that the focus isn't the fame of Hollywood, but it's really the dedication of the peoplehood and lighting up the world. Good for him, and good for you for being here. And the words were just so beautiful. And we learned so much about really the most extraordinary person I've heard of in a long, long time. Jerry Garcia said, sometimes we live no particular way but our own, and nothing left to do but smile. May his memory be for a blessing. I ask you to rise for the memorial prayer. El mele rachamim shochen bamromim, hamtzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina, im kedoshim v'torim, kezor harakia mazirim. Et nishmat Cory, son of Bobbie and Jack, shalach leolamo. Ba'al harachamim yasdirehu b'seiter kanafav leolamim, v'yitzur b'yitzur ha'chaim et nishmato. Adonai hu nachalato, v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo, v'nomar amen. We can read together in English. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of thy presence among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament unto the soul of Cory Weisman, who has gone unto eternity. Lord of mercy, bring him under the cover of thy wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be God's possession, and may his repose be peace. Amen. And before we say the mourner's Kaddish, I think it's important to have a word of introduction with that prayer. The word Kaddish just means sanctity. On Friday night, we say Kiddush, the blessing of the wine, same root word. Marriage is Kiddushin. Work we do at a funeral home, Chevra Kadisha. When we pray, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. The Torah is kept in the Aron HaKodesh. You get the point. Kodesh, sanctity. The Kaddish was written in Aramaic, a common languages of the Jews at the time. And it's really just a group of adjectives about God. In a moment like this, we still have to recognize that there's something more than beyond us. But the rabbis had a great concept of adding the last line, and they added it in Hebrew, the holy language of our people. And that line's theme is peace. And peace is more important than anything in the world. And that's what your son and your brother and your uncle, your friend, that's what he stood for, because he just wanted peace amongst people. And he created that world for himself. So the word shalom not only is peace, hello, goodbye, it's completeness, shalem, completeness. In our tradition, we think that people, or we know that people die twice. This is the first time. The second time is when no one remembers him. We have to remember to keep his complete life going. As you light the Hanukkah candles, or whatever you do to make the world a brighter place, a peaceful place, we say this in his memory, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayedachol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'izman kariv v'imur amen. Yehei shmei rabba mavorach leolam u'mei maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'imur amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imur amen. Oseh shalom v'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imuru amen. And please be seated, and we say to the mourners, Hamakom yirachem etchem b'tok she'arav leitzion v'Yerushalayim. You should be comforted with all the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem, and everywhere else that his spirit is, as we say, Amen.
I'd like to announce that immediately following the service today and until 7 p.m. this evening, the family will be sitting Shiva at the Weinstein residence, Jamie and Jeff's home, in Arlington Heights at 4028 North Harvard Avenue. This information is also in the service folder you received, and for those of you that are viewing online, it's also on our Chicago Jewish Funerals website. Also, the memorial contributions to the American Heart Association or the American Cancer Society, that information is also listed. This does conclude the service. You may exit through the side doors, folks.